It's a mystery to me why it took me so long to return to Robin Hobb's Realm of the Elderlings. Hello everyone, and welcome to Dutch Greybeard. My first encounter with the work of Robin Hobb, or Megan Lindholm as she is actually named, dates back to November of 2023. I read Assassin's Apprentice, the first book in the Farseer trilogy, and the following December I read the second book, Royal Assassin. Assassin's Quest, the closing volume of the trilogy, I read in January of 2024. My overall rating for these books is 93 points out of 100, so it's pretty obvious I really like them. However, it took me almost 2 years to pick up the second trilogy in the series, the Liveship Traders. To be honest, I can think of no reason other than that there is too much good fantasy for me to catch up with. At the time I picked up this first book in Robin Hobb's Liveship Traders Trilogy, my apartment had just gone up for sales, and I had recently unhauled about 1,400 books. I had not yet found the motorhome I was going to move into, and spent a lot of time searching for the right one. In short, they were hectic times, and within 15 pages, I realized I couldn't give this book the focus it deserves. So I put it aside for quieter times. During the final days of my holiday in Norway, on October 4, I finally had enough headspace to read this book. I had deliberately taken it with me, so there was no escaping it any longer. And even though times were still hectic, after the prologue and the first chapter, I was sold. The fact that I spent 23 days with this book has everything to do with my life changes and nothing with the quality of the book itself. When the dust of my life had settled down somewhat, I read the final 400 pages in 3 days' time, which is very fast for me. By the time this video will go online, I will have finished reading the second book, Mad Ship. I intend to make a separate spoiler-free video on each of the Liveship Traders books. So, let's get into Ship of Magic. In hindsight, it is not so strange that the book didn't hook me at my first try, because the prologue is weird, to say the least. You have no idea what it's about, and finding my bearing required perseverance, which at my first try I couldn't muster. When I tried the second time, I was highly motivated to push through. I knew that this was going to be a story about sentient ships. If that doesn't spark one's curiosity... Thankfully, it took no more than about 20 pages to really get hooked. The prose is excellent from the first page to the last. About them, the trees dripped the second-hand rain of last night's storm. What writer comes up with something innovative like second-hand rain? Beautiful. Also, right at the start, I got a glimpse of the wise undertone of Hobb's writing. The man who worries about what will next be happening to him loses this moment in dread of the next, and poisons the next with prejudgment. The story about the Vestrit traders family is very emotional and gripping. The depth of the family tradition and the importance of the liveship Vivacia in all this is almost tangible. I felt strongly for Althea and her ordeals. It is not difficult at all to hate Kyle Haven, the husband of Kefria, Althea's sister. The way he squanders the Vestrit legacy like a bull in a china shop, or his brutal treatment of his only remaining son Wintro, awoke true feelings of hate inside of me. But now, at the end of Mad Ship, I would not be surprised if we will see a changed Kyle Haven later on in the story. Hobb's much-praised character work is once more one of the absolute highlights of this book. None of her characters are black and white, although Kyle Haven comes very close at the beginning. But even his rash and cruel actions can be understood in a way. Hobb takes her time to develop the world and her characters, which at times can give a reader the feeling that the story pace is really slow. Even though there is a lot of adventure and action going on, I would call Ship of Magic more a character study than a true adventure story. But my patience is rewarded with an emotionally rich, believable world. All feels real. Althea's stubbornness, Wintrow's idealism, Kennet's charming cruelty, and of course Vivacia herself. She, as some of the other life ships like the Paragon, are the most fascinating characters of all. I felt that Malta's character, Kefria's daughter, is one of the best in this book as well as in the next, Madship. This seemingly simple girl undergoes major character changes as the story unfolds. Her inner monologues, which is Hobb's preferred instrument in shaping her characters, daydreaming and dialogues with her grandmother Ronica and her mother, add depth to her picture every time. From bland and spoiled, she develops into deviously manipulative and later on introspective and perhaps even a little bit wise. There are many impressive and heartbreaking scenes, like the one where Vivacia finally becomes sentient, or as it's called in the language of the book, her wizard wood quickened. Or the scene where one of the characters has to cut off one of his own fingers is hugely impressive. Hobb does an excellent job at keeping the reader curious without becoming tedious. Many questions remain, but they don't get in the way of enjoying the story. Like, what is that wizard wood? Who or what are those serpents that feature in the prologue and a few chapters later on in the book? Who are those people living up the Rain-Wild River? What is their connection to the people living in Bingtown? Also, the background of several of the characters remains shrouded. Who is this charismatic but cruel pirate, Captain Kennet, truly? And why does he want to be the king of the pirates? And what about the full story of Paragon, the discarded and disgraced life ship? Or this mysterious woodcarver called Amber? Who is she and what motivates her? There is this beautiful description of her art. The leaping dolphin bead could only have been a dolphin. There was no berry, no cat, no apple hiding in that bit of wood. Only the dolphin had been there, and only Amber could have found it and brought it out of concealment. These words, of course, are strongly reminiscent of the famous words ascribed to the sculptor Michelangelo. The sculpture is already complete within the marble block before I start my work. It's already there. I just have to chisel away the superfluous material. Amber says things like, "I have always been more curious than wise, yet any wisdom I've ever gained has come to me from my curiosity." Hobb's prose ranks among the very best in the genre. Here's an example of why she receives so much praise for her prose. She shook her head, setting all four of her mismatched earrings to swaying. Her depiction of the sailors and their harshness is dark most of the time, although occasionally it can also be funny. If a seagull farts near us, I want the wind from it caught. And in this inner monologue, Kefria for the first time recognizes Kyle's true face and nature. Next to building the character, this is extremely impressive prose. She turned her head and stared at this sudden stranger in her bed. He was not the man she had always believed him to be. All these years she'd been married to a fantasy, not a real person. She had imagined a husband to herself, a tender, loving, laughing man, and she had put Kyle's face on her creation. The truth was that he had never been the romantic figure her fancies had made him. He was just a man like any other man. No, he was stupider than most. When Althea experiences how hard it is for a small woman like herself to do the work of a sailor, she was like a horse teamed with oxen. It wasn't that she was incapable of the work, only that she was mismatched. A life ship becomes sentient after 3 generations of the family who owns the ship have died on her deck. In a way we don't yet understand, she inherits their memories, and therefore she can only function when a member of the family is on board. By the way, a life ship can also be a he. Wintro, Kyle Haven's son, feels he is more a Festrit than a Haven. His bond with Vivacia is very special, although complicated. It's one of the things Kyle doesn't understand. He saw her and Wintro as but parts of a machine, a block and tackle that once joined a certain way must then work a certain way. Had they been a fiddle and bow, he would have smashed them together over and over again, demanding that they make music. The mysterious serpents that made the prologue a rough place to start provide an intriguing cliffhanger at the end of the book. I'm very glad that I finally found the time and the right headspace to read this book. I gave it 94 points out of 100, very close to a genuine 5-star. Hobb's storytelling is immersive, her world-building seamless, and her pacing masterful. I'm quite sure that this is going to be another of those trilogies that I will read back to back without any interruption. Thank you very much for watching this video. Until we meet again at Dutch Greybeard.